It's your boy, Memetic Theory.
Memes of the decade.
Number 9. Raid Shadow Lessons. Let's give him a hand. Raid Shadow Lessons is an interesting multiplayer game in which, I'm just kidding, I haven't played, I have no idea. Actually, in all reality, I first gotta give thanks to the sponsor of this video, and that's Dated References. And without them, I think I would just be Left Shark. Number 9. First of all, you may be wondering about this new Snapchat filter I've got. My cousin actually is a developer on them, and they'll be in the App Store next week. Check it out. That'll stay in this. I'll probably stay in the video. Content is content. Anywho, hot take I know. The reason why this meme clocks in at number 9 isn't because the words themselves, but more the vicious battles they represent. So we're just gonna dive into uniqueness first.
I am a snowflake, I am unique.
I mean, first of all, illusions aren't a new thing. We had them as kids in books, that's seen them in school. It's a fun little trick of the brain. But the thing that makes this, first of all, slightly different is that it was an auditory illusion, and that's something you don't really hear besides in academia. And in fact, I actually worked in a neuroscience lab for a bit, perception, and I know I mentioned this before. And we studied audio-tactile perception, and one of the things we worked on was actually trying to trick the brain and understand better how it perceives audio and vibration. And we actually were able to make you think you were hearing different sounds by playing different pitch vibrations you were touching. So we could make you think you were hearing a lower pitch than you actually were by touching something that was vibrating at a slightly lower frequency, and vice versa. Touching something higher frequency would make you think you were hearing a higher pitch than you actually were. Science is cool. First of all, jumps out is the blue dress. Is it, blue and gold or black and whatever? Fuck, it doesn't matter. I really don't give a shit. Fuck, that's literally. And I know you're gonna say this is the same thing, and on the surface level it is, but the way in which the world reacted to it and did have a significant impact in the meme community is why I think this is actually pretty special. Like I said, it's not the first optical illusion, and there were other things like the Xbox versus PS4 was similar, obviously Blue Dress, Spinning Dancer. But the thing that made this meme different was it wasn't much about actually choosing a side as much as poking fun at choosing sides. But again, still not an entirely new concept, so that's why I gotta give it a 2. So for popularity, you would think that the fact that the blue dress went super viral, that this would have hurt the popularity of this one. Well, and in fact, it hurt the longevity. Longevity gets a 2. Fuck it. Longevity gets 1. Bitch died in like a week. Back popularity. What drove his popularity was twofold. First, people recognized its similarity to the blue dress and just wanted to hop on the train. That drove a lot of people like, oh man, that went really popular and this is the same format. Maybe this goes really popular too. People started creating content, talking about it, memeing it, news, stuff like that. That was one thing that drove the factor. But there was a second that was, I think, a little bit more interesting. And it's the fact that we get to fall back in the same roles of choosing one side or the other and really vehemently getting into it. Sort of self-aware that it's ridiculous and stupid, and that obviously both things are right, and it doesn't really matter. And especially at the time when the country's so divided, it really, I think, struck a chord to many people. Even if it's in a subtle way, people were able to, even intuitively and subconsciously, able to connect this to the greater internet debates and keyboard warriors. And this were able to fall into this ironic, heated exchange back and forth with each other over whether it's Yanni or Laurel. I mean, the video did become really quite big, especially in the mainstream world. Like, the White House did a freaking parody video of it. Not choosing a side, but just parodying the concept of its divisiveness.
So clearly Laurel. It's Laurel. But I could deflect and divert to Yanni if you need me to.
Sarah, it's been reported that you hear Laurel. How do you respond?
Clearly you're getting your information from CNN because that's fake news. All I hear is yawning.
Who's Yanny?
I hear Kofefi.
I'm not sure if that irony was lost on them, considering just love him or hate him, pretty freaking divisive. I mean, definitely most divisive president we've had in, since like Lincoln or yeah. However, the meme community was quick to point out the obvious, that it was the same as a black and blue dress, and I think some felt resentment to that, and it really didn't seem novel and new to them. But they did end up picking it up in other ways, and I'll talk about that in a second. And the meme community wants to consistently separate itself from mainstream culture, and in a way almost dictate mainstream culture. And the fact that this popularity first came from the mainstream culture really, I think, frustrated a lot of people, and not a lot of big name creators picked it up and explored it, at least directly. And that's why I'm docking it a point for a 5 instead of a 6. And in many ways, I think this was the most and least useful meme. And that had so much potential to be a catalyst of greater self-reflection from our leaders and from us on how we conduct debate and acknowledge different perceptions. They could have used it as an opportunity to talk about our shared culture, shared experiences. They could have used it as an opportunity to talk about our shared culture, that we share the same values of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but just sometimes have different perceptions on how to reach that. But unfortunately, at most, we got only half of that. The ironic parody of the division without the acknowledgement and moving past and embracing the things we actually do have in common. We got them poking fun at themselves and their partisanship, but without either the logic or the guts to point out the deep, simple truth behind this meme, and that we're divided, but we don't have to be. This was a big opportunity for a leader like Donald Trump, and though he did poke fun at himself, he didn't step up or start to talk about how toxic the national conversation has become, much in part due to his own rhetoric. And on the left, the leaders could have done the same and stepped back a moment from the vitriol of identity politics. But, of course, we didn't get any of that either. Still like to divide the country because that's how people keep their power. Had we seen more partisan meme pages that are super pro-Donald Trump or left-wing ideology, this might have marked a turning point. But since it's really famed out and all the other jokes about division stayed pretty well within the meme community and not into other social cultural groups, it was just an omen of the increasing partisanship in the times to come. And though there was some subtle intuition and maybe subconscious recognition of the partisanship and the vehemence and anger in our dialogue, especially online, I think this by and large was missed by many, and we as a society haven't yet grown tired of the fighting. And unfortunately, unless our leaders, both politically and culturally, step up and start cracking jokes about how divided we are and start giving the ironic edge to like, yo, maybe we aren't so different, things are only going to get worse. And so for those mixed messages, but great potential that I think this could come back around in a very meta-ironic way that could actually take mainstream. I'm going to give it a 4. So there were some memes before it, but I want to talk about the different memes and responses to it. So it's versatility.
So first I wanted to talk about the memes that dealt with its fundamental concept of playful divisiveness.
Some of the highlights of these different forms was obviously the Xbox versus PlayStation. And though this came before Yanni and Laurel and even the blue dress, it was more of a literal battle and fight, people choosing communities and having fun sort of, picking their sides, but they did have a side in which they pick, even though they're, super stupid. It doesn't really matter. There's no real difference because obviously the PC is where it's at. I mean, let's be objective here. You're literally buying a second computer for what? When you already have so much better capacity and power in a PC. It just doesn't make sense. Also, you can play better. You need aim assist. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? And obviously that brings us to this gang versus that gang. Time zone being probably the most well-known.
Eastern time zone gang be like, it's getting pretty late, better go to bed. made by Central Time Zone Gang.
That was a fun, I think, unique, ironic joke that went through the community. Though it was a bit more overt and heavy-handed, pointing out ironic differences where nothing's the same, and I think that's what sort of lags behind Yanni and Laurel. I think a lot of the irony is missed on a lot of people. So, yeah, you gotta take it for what it is. Even corporate America built off of it with the left Twix and right Twix. It was decent, but people already knew, sort of got the concept, ha 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 ha, there's actually no difference. But I think part of the community had been inoculated to the joke, probably worked on kids, so I think they know what the fuck they're doing. The whole boys versus girls debate was similar, boys locker room, girls locker room. That still has flare-ups and is sort of in its dying last legs, and people are doing different versions, but the difference is there actually are some differences, but they really just build off like occasional stereotypes, which is like at best sick stereotype. At worst, it gets a little toxic and like sexist and shit. And it's just like, it's not really adding to the world. You're not pointing out something new. Stereotypes are considered the lowest form of humor, second only to puns. And just like the ring toss to a bottle, if there's data to support it, it's fair game. It's a fair country, fair. Get it? Fair game, county, carnival, fair. It's a fair game. Puns, except those aren't like fair at all. So unfair game. So stereotype-based jokes, you should just give up on them, like I am in this joke. One of my favorites is which chipmunk received the best head. Totally had all that fake fighting, deep, stupid question itself, amazingly brilliant question in itself. And the detail of the debate really taking this fun intellectual turn, though obviously the intellectual community ended up deciding it was Theodore. If you'd like to understand why, you can check out my Instagram, Memetic_Theory. I have a poster if you scroll down, and you can have a clear, detailed answer about why Theodore is receiving the best head. Just make sure to follow. So memes typically fell into one of 7 categories. First was simply just to reference the controversy, which was pretty bad, even if done ironically.
Yanni.
No, I want the shot inside the jet. They need to see it. I mean, geez, go jerk off on a polar bear, because that would just be another example of something that no one wanted to see and should have immediately disappeared into the furry void of time. Except here we are, a couple of Coca-Cola bears who just got Me Too'd by Danny Vito, minus every feature that makes him endearing. Another example of referencing Yanni and Laurel just for the sake of it is this delightful tweet from the US Air Force of the Taliban forces in Lego City, Afghanistan, which much rather heard Yanni or Laurel than the deafening brrr they got courtesy of our A-10. I mean, they're not wrong, but I mean, we did kill 7,000 civilians by accident in the first decade of the war, so probably not in best taste.
2 is to point out other things that are also the same.
Yes, we know. That is an amazing album. Definitely go take a listen. And okay, this was well done. In the biz, we like to call this a callback.
3, that apathy is also an option.
Ah, they're such cute dogs. It's Yanni. No, it's Laurel. Oh no, they're retarded.
Which is also stupid, because not only does it shit on the fun cultural experience of the fight, but it also just like says like not caring is cool, but arbitrarily caring passionately about something, like memes, is what gets me through the day. So fuck them. 4, there's other illusions.
5.
People used to talk about how even though there are differences in perspective, there is only one. Six, and that how anything we disagree with or doesn't fit our worldview is just fake news.
People who think it's Laurel are correct. People who think it's Yanni. Eat pizza with a fork and knife. Don't use turn signals. Ask for Snapchat streaks. Film fights vertically on their phones. Didn't understand Infinity War's ending. When everyone's hearing Yanni or Laurel, but all you hear is that the Supreme Leader just visited a farm that's been doing very well since the government introduced its new agricultural plans.
And so there wasn't much direct reference from the memes community about Yanni and Laurel. I still think there's quite a few ways in which this was taken, so I gotta give it a 4.
That's for a total of 16. Fuck it, I'm done. It's been real. Catch y'all hopefully within 2 weeks.
Next video.